Tens of thousands have taken to the streets across Israel after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fired his defense minister. Yoav Gallant had spoken out against controversial plans to overhaul the justice system. In Jerusalem, police and soldiers used water cannon against demonstrators near Mr. Netanyahu's house. The U.S. said it was deeply concerned about the developments and called for a compromise. A week of disruption had already been planned over the new law. The reforms include plans that would give the government full control over the committee which appoints judges. They would also make it harder for courts to remove an unfit for office, which has angered many who consider it in the interests of the incumbent, Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces an ongoing trial for corruption. As India overtakes China as the world's most populous nation, there is a crisis of population in parts of the country where fertility has fallen below replacement levels and migration has left behind ghost towns inhabited by the elderly. A town in Kerala state which is grappling with the consequences of an aging society. For years, schools in a drowsy town in Kerala have been facing an unusual problem. Students are scarce and teachers have to go out looking for them. They also have to pay from their pockets to bring students to the school. A 150-year-old government upper primary school, which educates students up to the age of 14 in Kumbhanad, has 50 students on its rolls, down from about 700 until the late 1980s. Most of them are from poor and underprivileged families who live at the edge of the town. With only 7 students, grade 7 is the largest class. In 2016, the class had only 1 student. Six months after sharing a photograph on Chinese social media celebrating her graduate school admission with her bedridden grandfather, Zheng Linghua died. The 23-year-old had shared the image on the platform Xiaohongshu, sporting pink hair and visibly excited. She announced to the world that she had earned a spot to study music at East China Normal University. Grandpa has been my pillar of support since I was little. One of my motivations for applying to graduate school was so that my grandfather could see me get in and be proud of me. But her joy was short-lived. Within days, she had become a target of bullying online. Her photograph was shared with false, and often insulting, captions. She then became the target of relentless taunting, with some calling her a nightclub girl and an evil spirit. Germany's transport network will be at a near standstill on Monday as two of the country's largest unions strike. Staff at airports, ports, railways, buses and subways walked out shortly after midnight for a 24-hour stoppage. Unions are demanding higher wages to help their members cope with the rising cost of living across the country. There have been multiple smaller walkouts by other public service sectors, but Monday's will be the largest in decades in the country. The two unions involved in the strike are among the largest in Germany. Verdi represents around 2.5 million employees across the public sector, including in public transport and at airports. EVG represents around 230,000 employees at Deutsche Bahn, Germany's national rail operator, and other bus companies. At least 29 migrants have died after at least two boats sank off Tunisia's coast within hours of each other, officials say. The sub-Saharan migrants were trying to cross the Mediterranean to reach Italy. It is the latest in a string of migrant boat capsizes off Tunisia's coast in the last few days, with 5 others sinking in the past 4 days. This comes after Tunisia launched a campaign against undocumented African migrants. Meanwhile, Italian officials on the island of Lampedusa say they are overwhelmed after a record 2,500 migrants arrived in the last 24 hours. Tunisia has become a hub for migrants who wish to make it to Europe, with UN figures showing at least 12,000 migrants who landed on Italy's shores this year left from Tunisia. That figure was just 1,300 in the same time period last year. Every true Eurovision fan knows the song contest is much more than one Saturday night in May. There's the anticipation of a host city announcement, the national final season when acts are chosen, and the bit we're at now, the pre-party stage. Across Europe, over the next month, participants will perform at fan-organized events in preparation for the competition in Liverpool. This weekend, thousands attended the first pre-party of 2023 in Barcelona. This is the best thing ever, this year's UK entrant May Muller explains as she meets some of her fellow competitors for the first time. I get to go and see all these amazing places and people. People in Lebanon have woken up in 2 rival time zones, amid a row between political and religious authorities over when clocks should go forward. Caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati announced that daylight saving would begin at the end of Ramadan next month, allowing Muslims to break their daily fast earlier. But Christian authorities said they would change the clocks on the last Sunday in March, as happens most years. Many businesses have followed suit. The dispute illustrates deep divisions in a country where Christian and Muslim factions waged a civil war in the late 1970s and 1980s, and where political positions are shared between religious groups. On Thursday, Mr. Mikati, a Sunni Muslim, announced his decision to delay the start of daylight saving until midnight on the 20th of April.